All right, we're back, and I'm very pleased to introduce Mr. Reggie Henry. And here is your set of trees, the Reggie Henry trees stand
cool.
out there in the Chesapeake Bay area.
All righty.
So, Reggie, thank you for joining us, and we're really looking forward to hearing. This is an awesome session. I already have a preview of it. So.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here. How's everybody doing? Hands off to Suzanne for making this room look like it does, right? That's innovation right there. Innovation right there. So I'm Reggie Henry. I'm the CIO here at ASAE. Sometimes the chief troublemaker here at ASAE. And I'm probably going to cause a little bit of trouble today as I'm going through this presentation. So bear with me a little bit. So a couple of quick stories. Because I agree with Felicia. I think stories kind of bring points home here. So who you see on the screen there, that's my great-nephew. His name is Makai. Okay? He's a wonderful little young man, gets into everything. And this was last Christmas. I'm at his house last Christmas, and he's running around opening his gifts up, and like kids do on Christmas. And I was taking pictures of him with my iPad. About halfway through, he looked around, and he's like, what's Uncle Reggio doing over there? But then he got back to his presents again. I wasn't so important. But when we got done, he got up on my lap, and I showed him how to start the video. And the look on his face was, whoa, this is magic. This was magic to him. And the reason why I tell you this story at all is because, we now have what I would call sufficiently advanced technology. You remember this quote? Some of you are probably too young to remember this quote, but there was a movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey. And the quote that came out of there was that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Okay? And so the tools we have now at our disposal, okay, the fact that I'm using my iPad to do this presentation and my phone, and those are my tools of choice, and that those are my computers now as opposed to anything else, to me that's magic. Okay? Those are the tools we have. Those are the tools that your customers and your members are using, and they expect differently than what we do right now. Second quick story to bring that point home. You guys familiar with Peapod? Okay, Peapod is a service run by Giant Food where you can go into an app and order your groceries and they get delivered. Okay? I'm the grocery shopper at my house, so that's a little bit of magic. Okay? Not too long ago, I was in a subway station and I saw the Peapod thing there where I could go up and scan what food I wanted and have that delivered to my house. And I'm like, yeah, this is magic for me. Okay? Last Christmas, my wife comes downstairs, and out of nowhere, she says, we need a new refrigerator. Okay? And I went downstairs, and I opened the refrigerator door, stuck my hand in. It's cold in there. Okay? I took the ice tray out, sprinkled it in. Ice cubes were working. And I'm like, why do we need a new refrigerator? And she says, because it's stainless steel. Okay? So I went to Best Buy, and we've got this guy at Best Buy. His name is Derek. And he's my favorite guy at Best Buy. Every time we go to Best Buy, we use Derek. Okay, I walked into Best Buy, and my wife says, we won't be using Derek today. You get that feeling that you're being set up some kind of way. Okay? So my wife had made friend with somebody else at Best Buy. And so I had taken all the measurements of the refrigerator and figured out how many cubic inches we needed and all that sort of stuff. And so I started telling this lady, I think her name was Stephanie, started telling Stephanie, look, I need this many cubic, and Stephanie says, what I need to show you is this. So on the refrigerator, they've got this barcode reader. And as you get your food, you scan it in. Okay? So it's keeping track of the food you're scanning in. And after you're done with the food item, you scan it again. So after about 2 months, they say, okay, the refrigerator knows when you're running out of stuff. Okay? And so that's pretty magical, right? But here's the stupid part. The refrigerator sends you an email letting you know that you're out of stuff. Okay? So that's the world we're in. But imagine this. Imagine if the refrigerator, instead of sending me the email, sent it to Peapod, right? And so I don't have to do anything but eat and wait for my groceries to come, right? But that's the world we're in. I mean, that's where consumer expectations are. And so we've got to start to think about the fact that I think right now we have lazy systems. I think we have lazy marketing systems. I think we have lazy AMS systems. I think we have lazy systems all the way around. So back in 2009, I was invited with some other folks by the Secretary of the Smithsonian to come and start to figure out what the Smithsonian need to look like in the coming century. And this quote was given by one of the people that we interviewed in that process. Right? He says, search, search, search. I don't want to search. I want to find stuff. I don't want to search for stuff. We were talking about search engine optimization and all the things how we were making it easy for people to search stuff. And this was the first time I heard somebody say it out loud. I don't want to search. I want to find. Okay? And if you think about that, and my question to the folks who were there, are searching and finding the same thing? Okay? We spend a lot of time talking about search engine optimization and all of those sorts of things. But my question to you is, what if you do the best doggone job you can with search optimization and somebody uses it and they get to the page you wanted it to get to and that's not the stuff they wanted? What do you do? What do you do? So that's what we're going to talk about today, okay? Because the other thing that came out of that discussion were that the people who visited the Smithsonian said, what we're coming for is to derive some value from this stuff. So don't mistake ourselves in thinking that our content is all the gold. People want value. They don't want just content. They want to receive value from content. So we've got to figure out what do we need to do with our content and our systems to continually create value. That's what this is really all about. And so I saw this quote from Edgar Allan Poe that made me realize this ain't a new problem. Look at that quote. The quote says, "The enormous multiplication of books in every branch of knowledge is one of the greatest evils of this age, since it represents one of the most serious obstacles to the acquisition of correct information by throwing in the reader's way piles of lumber in which he must painfully grope for the scraps of useful matter." Painfully groping for scraps of useful matter. So I went to ASAE's webpage after I read this, and I typed in marketing plan. And I got 1,077 results back. And I was groping for scraps of useful matter. Okay? So think about that and the fact that this really isn't a new problem. So there's this shift we have to make. There's this shift that we have to make from content in bulk and content from search to helping people find the right piece of information for them. That's what this is all about. That's where they're going to get value. That's where they're going to get value. Okay. So the other thing that this is about, quite honestly, and I wish Felicia was still in the room because she's right. What we're all trying to achieve with all of this is member engagement. We're trying to get our members to stay engaged with our organization and to get the value that they're seeking through that engagement. Okay? That's what this is all about. So when I think about member engagement, it's the result of a member, and we got to keep remembering this, they're investing valuable time and valuable money with our associations. That's what they're doing, okay? And the amount of money and time that they have is shrinking. So we've got to create value quickly, and it's got to be precise. Got to be precise. So these are some of the problems that people have. Getting the members' attention in the first place is a big issue for us. Keeping them interested throughout their engagement with us is a chore. Okay? That's what. So Felicia asked, what was our mission statements? What were our mission statements? Anybody have a mission statement for their website? Anybody have a mission statement for their content? Okay. Just think about it and think about what that might be. If you had to say, if you had to develop a mission statement or a purpose statement or a value statement for your website or your organization's collection of content, what would that be? And once you develop that, how would you fulfill that mission? How would you fulfill that mission? But here's a problem we have in trying to do that. All of our members are pretty unique. Okay? They're not looking for the same thing. So part of what we have to be able to do is know more about our members. Not more about our members in segments, not more about our members in terms of what jobs they do, more about our members individually. So what I ask our teams to think about all the time, what if we had to work towards a market of one? What if you had to design systems that could market to individuals as opposed to segments, as opposed to job classifications, as opposed to any of those things? What would you do? How would you do that? How would you do that? So this idea that we've got our members' rapt attention for long periods of time, very false. It's just as likely that our members will be coming to our website and they're on the subway or they walked into their boss's office with an iPad trying to show them something, or God forbid they're driving trying to get some information. Okay? But it's just as likely as they're doing that as sitting in front of a desktop or a laptop trying to get stuff. How do you walk your way through those kinds of things? Okay? And think about the many resources you have. You've got books, you've got meetings, you've got people who are resources, you've got journals, and we continually and almost exclusively focus on website content. And so my conversation with you is that all of those things are resources, okay? And all of those things need to be not searchable. All of those things need to be findable by your members. And then if you add in this other crazy stuff we got going on right now, these discussions with things going on in LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and all of those things, that's content for your members. And sometimes that's the most valuable content for your members. Some of you have heard me tell this story before. We had one of our great members, his name is Jeffrey Kafad. And Jeffrey Kafad went into we had a blog, and he started this conversation about 21st century membership models. And I looked at that conversation, and after about 2 days, he had invited all of the smart people that we knew about membership into that conversation. Okay? And after about 3 days, that was the best content I had seen about membership models in about 10 years. And then I got really sad because I realized that the only people who saw that best content about membership models were the people who happened to be reading that blog. Okay? Those were the only people who saw it. And then I got doubly sad because I realized that if Jeffrey Kafad had written a book about membership models, he would have been celebrated at the annual meeting, he would have made a lot of money, etc. Okay? So we had no reward system in place for the people generating the most relevant content for our organization. But more importantly, we had no way of including that kind of stuff in the typical navigation and search engine optimization stuff that we do. Okay? That's a problem. That's a problem. So how many of you have ways of mining social content through your search engine optimization process? Come on, somebody. That's the most relevant information you have. So think about that as we move through this stuff. So that's the question I want us to think about, is how do we connect our members to all of the organization's resources, to discussions, to other people who might be a resource. If I'm on your website searching for strategic planning models, the best resource might be the expert in strategic planning that you have in your database already, or that you have from a presentation that you did at last year's annual meeting. It might not just be that written word content that you have in your content management system. So how do we connect our members to all of the organization's resources in a way that creates value for them? Not what we have predetermined is of value to them, but that creates value for them. Okay? So you need to know a lot more about them. Okay? You know, that's what this is about. It's about them and their value being reached, not what we have predetermined. That's what I want us to think about as we go through. So here's that quote again. And here's my quote, because I think we have a unique opportunity right now. The continuous proliferation of content in every branch of knowledge is one of the opportunities of this age. Okay? It's one of the opportunities of this age. I go to a lot of associations. I probably visit 100 associations a year. And I probably talk about this stuff 20 or 30 times a year. And most associations do not suffer from lack of content. They just don't. We've got, don't laugh, okay? I'm going to tell you an inside secret. If anybody laughs, and call my guys in. Okay? I asked our web team that, how many websites do we have? They said, well, at the present time, we have 19. I told you, don't laugh. But if you think about it, we've got our asaecenter.org. We've got our jobs website, which is Boxwood Technologies. We've got our private social network. We've got a Facebook presence. We've got a LinkedIn presence. And I can just go on and on and on. Okay? And then I asked them a question. If somebody goes to our website and types in strategic planning, what do they get? They said the stuff that's there at the particular website they happen to be in. Does that work? Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Okay. So where do we start? Okay. Okay. So I think the first thing we need is a language, a common language. Another problem that we face is that we get into this association speak. Whatever association you're in, you get into this association speak, and you start calling things different things than your member might be calling things. Okay? I don't know when it happened, but about 5-10 years ago, chapters became components. They did. They became components. Okay? Special interest groups became sections. So depending on what you typed in when you went to search for these things, you may or you may not find them. Okay? So I'm proposing that we need a common language that we can use internally. That's the same language that our members use externally to talk about similar things. Okay? Which means that has to be developed in concert with your members. You can't internally develop a taxonomy. I can tell you that. I've got scars to prove it. That language has to be flexible enough to classify not only traditional content, but every resource the organization has. Okay? I was wondering if our staff got this or not. So we went through this big taxonomy project, and the person who was responsible for our library walked into my office one day and said, guess what I just did? I'm like, what did you just do? She had organized the library according to the taxonomy. And one of our members had come in and was doing a search on our website, and they found the traditional stuff that they found, but they also found some book titles that were in the library. Okay? So we multiply that out by all the other resources you have, and you see where I'm kind of getting to. The member was like, whoa, how did that happen? And I was like, whoa, how did that happen? How did that happen? So we need this taxonomy thing to kind of get us going. Okay? So for those, everybody familiar with the concept of a taxonomy? Anybody not? Right. So here's what our taxonomy looks like. Okay? And typically for most organizations, their taxonomy is a way of topically classifying content. Topically. What is this content about? Okay? And I'll tell you that for a 21st century organization that has members who are on the go, who are at different levels of understanding about things, you need a lot more knowledge about your content. So our taxonomy has Here's the topic. Here's the aboutness of this specific piece of content. But it also says, what type of content is this? Is this video content? Is this written word content? Is this audio content? Has content levels? Is this foundational content? Is this instructional or applied content? Or is this strategic content? Is it specific to a certain industry? Is it specific to a certain job role? Is it specific to a certain functional area? Okay? So describing those pieces of content in ways that make it a lot more accessible to people. So I'm gonna show you a little bit of that so you can see what that looks like. I think. Bear with me, it will only take a second. You know, one of the joys of doing presentations here in our building is all my stuff works. I'm connected to all my stuff. So you can see here, yeah, we do have topics. We've got topics galore, okay? What we've also added for each one of those things is, what's the real world description of what this thing is, okay? And we're in the process now of shortening those descriptions to, guess what? 140 characters. That's what we're in the process of doing. And the reason we're doing that, if somebody searches for some content, okay, and they don't know what that specific thing is, we got to be able to tell them what it is. So that 140 character thing might pop up on the screen at any given time. Okay. So you'll see the topics, but you'll see that we also say, what industry might this be more germane to? What type of content? Is this an article, a blog, a book, or what have you? You know, what's the format of this particular content? What job role might it be germane to? And you're probably looking at me saying, Reggie, that's a lot. That's a lot, okay? The number one thing I learned in that project with the Smithsonian, and I'll tell you, during that project, what they did, they had 30 of us that they called us thought leaders, and I got really happy about that. It was thought leaders. But what they did was this. They first of all took us on a tour of all the Smithsonian organizations or buildings in the city. And then we were obviously overwhelmed by that. They did it over a 2-day period. But then they took us to the Smithsonian content holding places. And what we learned was that at any given time, only 1 to 3% of the Smithsonian's holdings are on display. 1 to 3%. Okay? And their message or their thought was, and I'm thinking about our association websites now, and all the content that we have and all the pages that we have, is how do we help people find what they are looking for? Not how do we help them search through the annals of the Smithsonian. How do we help individuals find what they are looking for? And what they realized is that they need to know a lot more about the individuals. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get back to this presentation first. Okay. And so how might we use this taxonomy, just what you've seen so far? So we've kind of done this in layers. So the first layer of us using this taxonomy was using it at the website. So if somebody goes and searches at the website, and let me bring the website up real quick and show you how we use it at the first level, and you might already be doing some of this stuff. I'm going to do the example I was talking to you about. I'm going to type in marketing plan, and you'll see the madness that ensues. If you see our website, folks, don't tell them I was doing this, okay? They hate when I do this. So I just typed in marketing plan. I want to see what we get back. You can tell how much stuff is getting ready to bring back by how freaking long it's taking. Okay? 8,267 pieces of stuff. Okay? And so I will ask you, if you were in your office and you had to write a marketing plan and you went to our website and you typed that, would that be helpful? Wouldn't be so helpful. But what we've done to make it more helpful is allow you to use the taxonomy. So you can go down a little further and say, if you're in finance and you're trying to get a finance view of marketing plans, you can see there's only 315 things. If you're a legal person and you're trying to get a scope on marketing plans, you'll see there's 262 things. But suppose you say, I don't need all of that. I need a strategic look at it. So if I click on strategic right there, I've got these 47 things that I'll look at. So you can see we can start to use that taxonomy to pare down stuff. And if I were to just go look at the strategic stuff, I could even then pare it down and say, in the strategic level, if I'm looking at this from a leadership point of view, there's only 6 documents. So you can see what I'm doing is paring down the content based on attributes of the content. That's how that taxonomy helps us a little bit. But there's another step that we need to do. Suzanne, are you keeping track of time? Okay, that can work. That can work. Okay. The next step that we need to do, because I think that's going to be the most important stuff I talk about. The next step that we need to do with this stuff is to give our members a way to tell us more about them. Okay? What are you interested in? What are you working on? What problems are you facing every day using that same taxonomy? Using that same taxonomies. And then I'll tell you about the goal that HighRoad did with us for that. So let me go back to here. Am I logged in? Not logged in. Okay, nobody try to look at my password when I do this, okay? All right. So what we've done at the website is there's an About Me area of the website. Okay? And once you get there, there's a place where you can go and say, here's what my interests are. Okay? And if you see right there, those are the same nodes that were in the taxonomy. Okay? So if I go down here and say I'm interested in technology, those are all the things that are in the taxonomy from technology. But you can see also, I can say what these 3 levels are. The one on the left is foundational content. The one in the middle is tactical content. The one on the right is strategic content. So I'm not only telling it what type of content I want, I'm telling it what level of content I want. Okay? What you'll see in about probably 2 or 3 months is that it's going to also ask you not only what you're interested in, it's going to ask you, what are you working on right now? And allow you to use the taxonomy to tell you what you're working on right now. Okay? And then it's going to ask you, what do you plan to be working on the next quarter, for example? Okay? And that intersection of using the taxonomy to categorize our resources, as well as let our members communicate with us how they want to receive value, because that's what this is really all about, creates some magic. We had a newsletter that we send out. You guys probably get it, the Association's Now newsletter. And we used to send it out where you got everything, okay? Or you got what we thought you should have, okay? And now we have a newsletter that comes out based on what you've specified as your interests are. Okay. I wish I had the statistics, and I'll see if I can bring them. But after we did that, after people realized that they could go and use this mechanism to get the content that they want and need, newsletter opens just started to go up. So you need to think about that through all of your systems. You need to think about the difference between searchability and findability. And you need to look at it through the lens of, is this creating value for my members? Not am I getting more hits on this page? Not is my website traffic rising? Okay? I'm one of those people who don't believe in those kinds of metrics. So I'll put Suzanne on the spot. She put me on the spot earlier, right? So I'll ask her this question. Suzanne, from a marketing point of view, if you were working on a membership campaign and you sent out 50,000 membership brochures, okay? And you were reasonably sure that 40,000 people did that, okay? That's a good hit ratio, okay? If only 10 people join, is that a successful campaign? Yes, it is.
So if you have done a bunch of activity and then you have some number and you say, okay, of this, I have 10 that have joined. Is it successful? And the answer is, it depends. I would say it depends. It would depend on who the 10 people are. That's what I would say, because not all members are created equal. And, you would definitely say that there's a response there, but I think it would depend on who they are.
He's hedging that when they see.
That's what I would say.
So let me ask your CEO. Mr. CEO, if you spent whatever amount of money it took to do this membership campaign where you had to send out 50,000 things and the cost associated with that, and 10 people joined, from your perspective, is that successful?
I would defer to Suzanne first.
So let me answer the question, okay? That's not successful. That's not enough. It's not enough. That's not good ROI. And that's what I mean, my thing with the kinds of measurements and metrics that we have in place for our websites measure things that might have been okay when websites were new and we were trying to figure out, is this technology working, et cetera. We have to get to the place where we tie our metrics back to the traditional things that bring value to the organization. We have to figure out how to do that. Okay? So yes, I do look at the search engine optimization data and the traffic data and all of that, but I'm trying to teach our staff how to tie back everything they do to value creation for our members. We've got to get that. So I've got two more things to ask you to consider about your content and about using a taxonomy, and then I'll be done. I got time for two more things? All right. But I do have to show you this, and this is, again, and I talked about it briefly, but the work that HighRoad did in terms of using our taxonomy to grab content and then to feed customized content to our members is stunning stuff. And our members have said so. This is not me saying this. This is what our members have said. But I'll ask you to consider two other things. We've got to figure out, what do we need to do about the situation where you have these websites that your members find different homes at. We've got a certain group of our members that the only place they go is our private social network called Collaborate. That's where they live. So if they do a search for marketing plans and Collaborate, they ought to get stuff from the website. They ought to get stuff from anywhere we have marketing plan information. So we're building this middleware, okay? And this middleware is going to be the place where we index all of our content across all of our systems. If you're not thinking about that and you've got that problem, you should probably think about that. Okay. But this is the problem I was talking about a little bit earlier. Now, what if somebody gets to your content and they do a search and they get to this particular piece of content and they say, this is too complicated. Okay? This is too complicated. Shouldn't they have the ability to start to back themselves up to something that's a little less complicated? Shouldn't they have the ability to back themselves up all the way to the beginning of that content string, beginning of their content string? Or if they land on a piece of content and, they say, this is not sophisticated enough for me. Why shouldn't they be able to walk through your content as they need to? So this idea of connected content, and how do you use your taxonomy to tag your content in a way that allows your members to consume it as they need to consume it? Last one is this. Last one is, I think we've got to understand that we've got members that are coming at this content from different ways. So you might have somebody doing some exploratory stuff, and they want to know everything that there is to know about marketing plans. So surfacing stuff from that educational point of view is one way to do that. But as I talk to our members, especially those who believe in my mission, which is to help them do their jobs better every day, and we found this out through focus groups, more often than not, they have to do something, okay? So consider somebody coming into my website, and maybe what they have to do is write a marketing plan. Wouldn't it be cool if I surfaced something that looked like this that says, here are the steps in writing a marketing plan? And I asked them, which step are you at? They say, I'm at step 1. Why shouldn't I be able to go out and find the content germane to step 1? And if they finish that and come back and they're at step 2, why shouldn't I be able to surface the content that's germane to step 2? So I'm going to stop there because, those are the main points I wanted to make, is that we've got the tools, if we think a little bit differently now, to create a different content experience for our members. One that's based on what they need, what they want, what their interests are. One that helps them get to the problem of doing their jobs every day. One that creates value for them, which creates retention for you, which creates the value that the organization needs. But we definitely have to start thinking about content differently. Now, I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts?
Thanks, Reggie. That was great. A lot of people ask with some of the implementations we've done on the taxonomy side, and so you get into the details of how complex that can be is awesome. Question for you, actually. Yep. 2 questions. One is on the if I were to log into the ASE website, is the actual experience tailored to me based on the taxonomy?
Not yet.
Okay. Not yet.
So we're in the process now of rebuilding almost everything, because we now have this glue, if you will. And so your first pass at everything, once you log in, begin to log in the systems, will be, here's Ron. I know what he likes. I know what he's working on. Do everything in the context of that, okay? If Ron happens to be in Collaborate and he's looking up members, do that in the context of who Ron is, what Ron wants, and what he's most likely wanting to do. If Ron comes to the website and we're surfacing content, do that in the context of Ron. Okay? So we're trying to build this relevancy bubble around people so that wherever they go with any of our properties, what they do is relevant to who they are.
Awesome. The other part that you mentioned, which I thought was really interesting, was it was almost a predictive piece in terms of, okay, if I'm doing a search and I'm starting here, you know the actual following steps, and so in a predictive way, presenting content and surfacing it.
So we're getting ready to start to try to understand what collections of content needs to look like. We're no different than any other association. Most associations know what their members do. Most associations have education departments and research departments. They know the kind of tasks that their members face on a daily basis. Okay? Why not organize the content around that? Okay? So if Suzanne comes to the website and she looks up marketing, believe me, she's looking for different stuff than me and you are looking for. We're looking for this bottom feeder stuff, and she's trying to change the world. And we know that about Suzanne, and we know that about us. We have to begin to create relevancy around our content.
Anybody else? Any other questions? That's good stuff. Is this good stuff? Okay, well, thank you so much,
Thank
Reggie.
you.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.